Be honest. How many books have you started but never finished? You're not alone. Millions of people fall into the same cycle: excitement, distraction, guilt. But you don't have to stay stuck there. And in this video, I'm going to show you not just why this happens, but how to fix it with 5 simple tactics that'll help you finally finish what you started. Have you ever felt like you're reading, but weeks later you can't recall anything? I thought I was absorbing everything until I realized my brain was doing something sneaky. I'd sit down with a book fully intending to focus, but then a random thought would pop into my head, and before I knew it, I had read 3 or 4 pages without absorbing a single word. And here's the part that really got me. It felt like I was wasting my time. That frustration made me lose interest completely, and most of the time I just closed the book. Over time, that pattern turned into a shelf full of unfinished books. Passive reading doesn't just make you forget, it creates the feeling that reading is pointless. That loss of interest is exactly why so many books get abandoned halfway through. Passive reading is when your eyes move across the words, but your brain isn't actively engaged. You think you're reading, but nothing sticks. Without that sense of progress, your brain feels like the effort isn't worth it. And once it feels pointless, finishing the book becomes nearly impossible. Cognitive science shows that our brains need reinforcement to stay motivated. When nothing sticks, you get no reinforcement, no dopamine, and no reason to really continue. It's like playing a game where you never score. Eventually, you quit out of boredom and frustration. That's why passive reading is one of the biggest reasons people give up on books. So here's the simple fix. Focus on one book at a time without distractions. After reading a few pages, pause and summarize out loud or in your own head what you just read. Even one sentence works. This quick mental checkpoint proves to your brain that your time is being well spent. And don't try to tackle too much at once. Set small finish lines like 3 pages or a short section. Hitting those tiny goals keeps your momentum up and stops that "I'm wasting my time" frustration from creeping in. Fixing passive reading made a difference at first, but soon I found myself spending hours on chapters that should have taken minutes. That's when I noticed a new challenge creeping in. After tackling my wandering attention, I tried to become the perfect reader. I would slow down, reread multiple sentences, making sure I understood every single detail before moving on. And on some chapters, what should have taken only 20 minutes ended up taking around 2 hours. I was learning more, but I was also moving slower than ever. And that pressure, it killed my momentum. Some days I'd read a lot, other days I wouldn't read anything at all. Trying to be perfect when you read can actually stop you from finishing books. Progress matters more than perfection. Perfection paralysis happens when you focus on absorbing every detail, every nuance, and every fact. You think you're learning more, but what's really happening is that your brain gets stuck, and you just get frustrated, slow down, and eventually quit. Cognitive science shows that consistency builds more lasting understanding than perfect one-time comprehension. Your brain strengthens memories through repeated exposure and connection over time, not by agonizing over every single page in one sitting. The trick here is to aim for good enough understanding on your first pass. Don't stop to master every little point. If something feels important, make a quick mental note and move on. You'll come back to it naturally later. Focus on consistent progress, not perfect retention. This way you keep the reading momentum going and finishing the book actually becomes possible. Even with better focus, my progress was all over the place. Some days I'd read a lot, other days barely anything. And I started to wonder why finishing books still felt so hard. I thought creating a system would solve everything. I tried scheduling specific reading times, tracking progress in a journal, and setting goals for each reading session. And yet, even with all of that in place, I couldn't maintain a steady rhythm. Some days I would power through pages, other days I'd struggle to read a single one. I realized the problem wasn't just discipline, it was the system itself. Even the best intentions fail without a system that actually fits your life. Without it, finishing books stays frustratingly out of reach. Most people assume that having a plan is enough, but overly complex or rigid systems don't account for natural ups and downs in energy, motivation, or focus. Without a framework that's simple and repeatable, your reading habit becomes inconsistent and unfinished books pile up. Behavioral science shows that small, repeatable habits beat complicated routines every time. Consistency, not perfection, is what actually builds progress. The key is to create a flexible system. I started picking small, realistic windows for reading, 10 to 15 minutes at a time, and treated them as mini sessions that were easy to commit to. I focused on making the habit stick, not trying to do too much at once. This way, I maintained momentum and started finishing books consistently without burning out or feeling guilty. I assumed a solid system would solve the problem, yet interruptions kept pulling me off track. Something about the way I was reading just wasn't sticking, and it puzzled me. Even after building a consistent reading system, I noticed something frustrating. Random notifications, an open laptop with tempting tabs, or a cluttered workspace would constantly pull me out of flow. Sometimes I'd read 3 or 4 pages, then realize I had no idea what I just read. Small distractions made it harder to settle into the rhythm, and I found myself restarting over and over. I realized it wasn't a failure of habit, it was something else quietly sabotaging my progress. Even a perfect system can be sabotaged by the wrong environment. Your brain needs space to focus or your progress stalls no matter how good your intentions are. Distractions don't just waste time, they interfere with memory formation and focus, making it harder to retain what you read. A thoughtfully designed environment amplifies the benefits of your reading system and keeps momentum going. Science shows that our brains are highly sensitive to external stimuli. Even minor interruptions activate stress responses and reduce working memory, which is exactly what you need to absorb and retain information. Controlling your environment makes every session more effective. I started by choosing a dedicated reading spot, a chair, a corner, or a small table, somewhere my brain would immediately associate with focus. Then I set up the space for minimal distractions, quiet room, tidy desk, soft music if it helps, and my phone out of reach. That's it. When I sit in that spot, reading becomes automatic, and I can stay engaged for longer without getting pulled away. After managing focus, perfection, and my surroundings, I noticed one last hidden obstacle that quietly made finishing books even harder. And it's something most people never even think about. Earlier this year, I discovered a used bookstore in my hometown. My daughter and I started going there regularly, and each time we go, we usually pick up 1 or 2 books. And within a few months, I had this intimidating stack of must-reads on my desk. Every time I looked at it, I felt this weird mix of excitement and dread. I'd think about all the hours it would take to get through everything, and that mental calculation would just drain my motivation. It wasn't that I didn't want to read. It was that the sheer volume of books waiting for me made starting feel pointless. Why begin one book when there are 15 others staring at me? Overwhelm kills momentum before you even start. Your brain sees a mountain of books and decides it's not worth climbing. When we accumulate too many unread books, our brain treats them like an overwhelming to-do list. Instead of feeling excited about reading, we feel pressured and guilty. This mental weight transforms reading from a pleasure into a chore, making it easy to avoid altogether. Cognitive psychology shows that decision fatigue reduces willpower and increases procrastination. When faced with too many choices, our brains conserve energy by avoiding the decision entirely. That towering book stack isn't inspiring, it's paralyzing your ability to just pick one and start. So what I did was I moved that stack to the bookshelf behind me and only left the book I was currently reading on my desk, out of sight, out of mind. Then I set a small daily target, just 3 focused pages, that's it. No pressure to read faster, no guilt about other books waiting on the shelf. This approach made reading feel manageable again and gave me a sense of daily progress. Once I finished that book, I'd celebrate the win, then mindfully choose the next one from the shelf. The key is removing the visual overwhelm and focusing on one small achievable goal at a time. Most people think finishing books is about willpower or speed. The truth is, it's about building a system that works with your brain. Even if you focus on just 1 or 2 of these strategies, whether it's avoiding passive reading, controlling your environment, or reducing overwhelm, you'll notice a dramatic improvement in how many books you actually finish. Start small, 1 book a few pages at a time. Consistency beats perfection and momentum will follow. And if you want to take this even further by learning to retain 80% more of what you read, watch this video next. Keep learning, keep growing, keep going, and I'll see you in the next video.